I'm really excited because I have a special guest with me today, and her name is Victoria Gallagher, and she is a worldwide leader in hypnotherapy, a best-selling author, international speaker, a life success coach, and renowned authority on the law of attraction. I'm excited for you to learn more about her and to connect with her because she has dedicated her life to empowering people all over the world. And she is also the host of her own podcast, The Power of Your Mind. So I'm excited for you to join us today, Victoria. Welcome to Monday Morning Mojo.
Thank you so much for having me. I love empowering people and I love the theme of your show, Monday Morning Mojo, helping people to really look forward to the Mondays. And I always look forward to Mondays. So
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect a perfect match.
Yeah, thank you. And that is really what I had in mind when I started this is, sometimes I think what we tell ourselves becomes our reality. And listen, we've all been there. We've had those Sunday night dreads or Monday morning blues. Yet if we could turn that around and really shift our thinking, could we see a very different result from that? And I think you and I both know it can go further than just the way we think about a day of the week.
A lot of people that maybe watch your show, maybe they've seen movies like The Secret and they've seen that, thoughts become things. And so starting from that premise, yes, essentially it comes down to the fact that your thoughts, your predominant thoughts ultimately become your reality. Ultimately, it creates your experiences and the results in your life. But it goes through a process. It's not just like the thoughts themselves. So your thoughts ultimately create your predominant emotions. And your predominant emotions are essentially your vibration that you're giving off. It's the energy that you're emitting all around you.
Totally.
And it's also your feelings are what's going to cause you to step into action.
Yes.
And, if you go to bed at night, you say, hey, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock and you wake up at 5 and you're like, I don't feel like getting up. Guess what? Telling yourself I don't feel like it and you feel tired and thus you're going to stay in bed.
You
And
literally talk yourself into it, right?
ex-
You like just
ex-
believe it to be what it is. And
exactly. And so
but the
in a lot of
opposite can be
ways,
true too, right? Like you can talk yourself right back out of it as well.
you can talk yourself into or out of anything. And essentially, the law of attraction, in a lot of ways, it's just kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. We create the world that we see around us. And it's happening on multiple levels. It's happening at the conscious level of mind, very common sense thing like I just talked about, where you wake up, I don't feel good, I'm not going to go to the gym, not going to get up, I'm not going to meditate, not going to do all the things, I'm just going to, or you say you will do those things and you feel good and you get the energy and you somehow get that mojo to get
Yeah.
going. But then the other side of the coin, the deeper side of this is that this primarily works at an unconscious level in the subconscious mind. And so most of our predominant thoughts, it actually works in like a little bit of a cycle because what happens is we have the beliefs already stuck in our subconscious mind from a perpetual cycle of the way that we have been
Hmm.
thinking, feeling, acting, and subconscious mind, it actually sends us the thoughts that we have. So all the
Yes.
things that we end up thinking, they actually start from our subconscious mind. So if we want to have better quality conscious thoughts, we need to change the subconscious mind. That's where we really need to start. We have to reprogram that mind, and that will ultimately get us completely in alignment with where we want to go. And our subconscious minds are so powerful that it can kind of cause these seeming coincidences and synchronicities, but really it was just you changing your perspective that
Yes.
makes things seem like miracles and magical. And also you understanding how much power you actually really have by tapping into the most powerful part of you.
And so if we could define the law of attraction in a simple to understand sentence or two, how would you define it?
I would say that your predominant thoughts, feelings, and actions create your experiences and your results.
Yes. And again, it can be positive, empowering, or the opposite. I believe that's another thing that some people miss about really connecting with and understanding the power of the law of attraction, because it's easy to want to connect with the positive side of it, but it's about also understanding and recognizing the patterns you already have that might be bringing some of the limitations or negativity into your world, and
Mhm.
that you can shift that the other way too.
There was just one other little thing about the law of attraction that I want to just make really clear is that, it's a practice. It's really a way of living. It's a lifestyle. So just another way that I like to explain it is it's an empowering way of being. It's essentially taking responsibility for our outer experiences and realizing that we're not victims to the things that are happening. We're drawing things to us based on patterns of thinking and patterns of emotion and patterns of acting. And so if you're continuing to get the same results over and over again that are, well, if they're positive, then that means you've been creating, you have great patterns in your thinking that are creating those results. And conversely, if there are certain patterns of things like you just keep creating the same scenario with your relationships, or you keep hitting against a roadblock in your business where you're just like, I can't get past the 6 figures or the 7 figures even, or whatever it is, 5 figures, or you keep attracting the same kind of clients, even though those are not the ones you really want to work with,
Right.
or whatever it is. If you look at patterns in your life, you can always look within to figure out, well, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What is my predominant thought process like? And you will be surprised. We can dig around inside and we can say, hey, what am I afraid of? Or what is it that I believe? And what am I hanging on to? Maybe it could even be some kind of resentments that somebody has and they just need to forgive and shift that energy. Or maybe it's just that they just need to shift their mindset to, they just keep looking at what they don't have and they get frustrated by what they don't have. And that causes a lot of doubt and that causes a lot of fear. And, the more you focus on the same thing, the more you stay in that same place. You start where you are and you just continue to build yourself and grow yourself into the person who is capable of having such a business. And if somebody else can do it, why not you?
Hey everybody, I'm so excited to introduce my friend Kim to you. Kim Zuroff is our special guest. She's the Director of Growth for The One Thing. She's an executive leadership coach and a very accomplished business leader. And we're going to talk about a lot of things that I think really are probably swirling around in your head and things that are showing up in your day-to-day. And Kim, I'm really glad that you could join me today and just have this chat really about what it's like to try to get to the next thing or the next level in business and in life.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. There's transferable skills to anything. Transitioning into what I'm doing now, there's still the core fundamental foundational things that still come into play with any role that has to do with growth. It's really fun as a leader to be a beginner. Sometimes we get used to achieving high performance and you become known for that. And then all of a sudden you're a beginner again and you get to learn a lot in that process.
What qualities do you believe are essential for leaders who want to create a lasting impact, not just get results, but really want to create that impact and be significant to the people around them?
I think the biggest thing for leaders is learning how to ask great questions,
Mm.
because when you're able to teach people how to think versus tell them what to do, it'll have a more impactful, lasting impression on them because they self-discovered whatever it is that they needed to discover versus you just telling them. I think that one of the biggest things, Anna, is have grace with yourself. And the advice I would give really is don't attach your identity to any kind of number, any kind of role, any kind of title, and don't forget who you are on the journey. And I think that's really important, in understanding your core values and being able to attach your core values to your purpose and your priorities of every day, I think is super important. That's my number one piece of advice as you're embarking on the leadership journey. Don't attach your worth, your identity, or anything else to any kind of outcome or results. The four thieves of productivity, the first one is the inability to say no. We say yes to too many things, and then we're saying no to the things that actually matter the most to us. Every yes has to be defended by 1,000 no's. And so be really sure on what you're saying yes to, because you're going to have to subsequently say no to a lot more things. The second thief of productivity is the fear of chaos. Now, this is the entrepreneur that says, I can't shut down my email because if I do that for a period of time while I focus on my one thing, absolute chaos is going to ensue. And the third thief of productivity is poor health habits. Big goals require big energy. And if we're not fueling our bodies to take care of ourselves, to give us the amount of energy we need, that can be a thief of productivity. And then the last thief of productivity, which is actually a bigger thief than most people will admit, is your environment doesn't match your goals. Now, it's not just your physical environment. It's the environment of the people you surround yourself with. It's the content that you consume, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to. And so oftentimes, like a lot of times people say the inability to say no is their biggest thief. Whereas if they actually fixed their environment and built their bunker and protected their time even better, then everything else would be easier versus their inability to say no. One of the biggest barriers is creative avoidance and focusing on 80% tasks because they're more fun. A lot of times our 20% activities, like they're not fun. They're actually really boring. And so one of the biggest things that gets in the way of leaders and founders and entrepreneurs is the busy work, the shiny objects, and saying yes to the things that they shouldn't be. And when they're saying yes to those shiny objects in the 80%, they're saying no to their 20% and the most important things. And that's one of the biggest barriers that I often see as a coach and as a leader. The secret to getting more is not by doing more. It's actually by doing less and prioritizing what you have. Let's just talk about the different areas of life that we have, right? We've got the spiritual, we've got health, we've got our personal lives, we got businesses, we've got relationships, we've got our financials. So we have several different buckets in life that we're dealing with. And oftentimes we have several priorities in each of those buckets. And so identifying your one thing is asking yourself the question of what's the one thing that I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary. In the morning, I just get my intentions straight, right? So thinking about some gratitude, thinking about the priorities for the day. At the end of the day, I have a little bit of a window of reflection time where I ask myself a few questions. Those questions I ask are, what went really well today? What are some things that are opportunities that maybe didn't go so well? And what's one thing that I'm really excited about that happened today? And so I ask myself some reflection questions just to think about what I can continuously improve on the next day and going forward. But protecting that energy, it's really boundaries with personal time. So communicating boundaries, making sure that I'm getting enough sleep each night. I don't sleep with my phone in my room. I used to, and it used to be like a huge struggle. But I just found that I was checking email first thing in the morning. And when you check for email first thing in the morning, before you even get out of bed, those emails tend to structure your morning routine for you. And so for me, it's like I shifted away from that. My phone's not even in my room. I get up and I do my morning routine before I look at my email. And that's made a huge change in my energy because it's like I'm able to do the things that I know give me energy. And that's a little bit of reading time. That's my workouts in the morning. all done before I dive into work.
That's great. People ask me if I'm always this positive. And I say to myself, nope, I'm not. So we're going to talk about the habit of positivity and how you can cultivate that. I work at this positive mindset. It's a choice because for me, the alternative is not as exciting. I would rather look at things with some optimism and maintain a positive outlook on things than to always see the glass half empty or to feel like I have things to complain about or worry about. We live in a world that's always changing. We also live in a world that's exciting and diverse and has a lot of opportunity. And so we have a lot of information coming at us, and what we're thinking is going to reflect on how we're feeling, and how we're feeling is going to reflect on what we're thinking. And so negativity is out there. It's kind of like the tiger that's laying out there in the bushes of the jungle. And the negativity that's out there, it could be ready to pounce on you at any time. We can't eliminate negativity from our world. But what we can do is choose how we process it. And we can make or choose to make positive experiences from it and allow that to really stay with us. We're thinking all day long. We're thinking, we're processing, our thoughts are with us. And 80%, this is what research has shown, 80% of our thoughts are negative. That's true for the average person. So if we have on average anywhere between 30 to 60,000 thoughts per day, imagine that 80% of them could be negative. And the other thing that research has revealed is that 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. In other words, our thinking is on a loop. Who's with me on that, right? You know that there are certain thoughts that you just think over and over again. Thoughts about yourself, thoughts about other people, situations, the world, whatever it might be, they tend to be on a loop. So break that down. 80% of our thoughts can be negative and 94% of our thoughts can be repetitive. We're in this constant flow of negativity if we don't break the cycle, if we don't allow ourselves to create some better habits, right? Our brains are wired in a way that allows for that repetition. So if that is true, can we rewire our thinking so that the loop becomes more positive? Can we change the pattern of our thoughts so that we're not stuck in a negative space or creating negative bias against ourselves or other people or situations? And can we put ourselves into the habit of thinking with more optimism, of thinking with more positivity, with more possibility, and allow ourselves to move out of that pattern, right? Because here's the thing, negative bias is there. It plays a big role in our lives, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. If we're going to open ourselves to our own potential, we've got to step out of those old patterns and really break into some new ways of thinking. So rather than getting ourselves upset over certain things that are not going our way, how can we reframe our thinking? You are the driver of your life, not the passenger. So you don't need to be a victim of your own negative thinking. And you don't need to be a victim of things that have happened to you in the past. You have the ability to stop it, to say cancel when you have that negative thought, when you're telling yourself that it's impossible or I'm struggling, I'm a failure, whatever the negativity is, it's important for you to say cancel and move past that. Because if you don't, you're just cutting yourself off from really experiencing life at its fullest, right? What we're talking about is creating a habit around positive thinking. This is not going to happen overnight. It can happen to some degree pretty quickly. You can catch yourself in that negative spiral of thinking or allowing what's happening around you to affect you and create some negative feelings. And I also want to share with you that you have the ability to say enough. So the first step is being aware that your thoughts are negative, that your thoughts are not serving you, right? So that's what I want you to ask yourself. Are the thoughts that I have playing in my head most of the day really serving me? If we're ruminating in negative thoughts for too long, it's going to have an effect on us. It's going to have a physical effect on us. It's going to have an emotional effect on us. We know that people who are more positive, more optimistic, more realistic in their approach to life, they experience better physical health. They have even a higher immune function. They have mental sharpness. They find that they're achieving success at a different level. All of those things are important. And the opposite is true, that those are the things that are at jeopardy if we are stuck in negative thinking for too long. So it's really a journey and a choice in choosing to be more optimistic and more positive. And some days it's more of a struggle than others. I'll admit that. But I think that the benefit from being more optimistic or more positive is certainly, it certainly outweighs being stuck in that negative pattern. If we can take our goals and our vision and chunk it down to what is the most important priority we need to accomplish this month, this week, today, how do we win today? I would think that we could allow each day to then take care of itself. So how will you win today? That's a great question for you to think about this morning. I just want to give you a couple of practical tips that will help you start this habit of positivity, okay? The first one, win the day. Focus on how to just be able to feel successful each day within the day itself. The second thing is to celebrate your wins and acknowledge that you're making progress, right? The third one, we've said this many times here on Mojo, practice gratitude, right? Because when you take time out each day to notice the good things happening around you, when you acknowledge the big and the little blessings that you have to be grateful for, it opens up your heart space. Okay, number 4, share that appreciation with other people. So we can feel gratitude, and that raises our emotional and vibrational frequency, which will go out into the world, but you will magnify and multiply that when you share your thoughts of gratitude, recognition, and praise with other people. Number 5, savor positive experiences. Savoring it is a deeper level of enjoyment, fulfillment. When you savor it, you allow yourself to really surround yourself with the emotions that experience created. Last one, practice this thought. Expect good things. Expect good things. Practice this. Because when you find yourself in that worst case scenario thinking for too long, it just cultivates a negative mindset. So I think that it's important for us to expect positive things, expect good things that can happen, practice this way of thinking, right? I'm very excited about our guest this week, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. I have Marisel Polizzo with me, and I first met her from afar, but I'm with Keller Williams, and back at the end of February, we were at Keller Williams' national event called Family Reunion, and we had some amazing speakers at this event. I've already talked to you about my notes from Tony Robbins, and then we had the one and only Mel Robbins, no relation to Tony. And Mel was fantastic. If you're not familiar with Mel Robbins, she's an author. She's a coach. She has one of the top 5 podcasts in the country, and that's the Mel Robbins Show. And she was talking to us about fear, and she was sharing some thoughts with all of us about what happens when we stay stuck in fear and what can change when we decide to move out of fear. And in the middle of her talking with all of us, there were about, I don't know, 15,000 of us there in the convention hall. She started to make it known that she was looking for someone in the audience to talk to. And I was sitting one aisle and 2 rows away from Marisel when Mel Robbins came up to her. And I think now I want you to meet Marisel, and she can talk to you a little bit about that experience. But I think we'll talk about a lot of things, because I also heard you being interviewed, Marisel, by James Shaw, and I feel like you could do a lot to inspire people. So welcome, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I am 42-year-old single mother of 4, and I was previously a nurse, a cardiac nurse for a little over 10 years. And I got COVID taking care of a patient and felt ill and ended up needing over 12 surgeries, including brain surgery. So we were wearing like one mask for the whole week. And it was pretty scary time. So trying to find peace in the midst of chaos was definitely what was like our aim, because you're supposed to be there for a patient and that's ill. And then if you're coming off worried and scared, it doesn't really help anybody. I had the COVID, was like in a semi-coma at home because nobody really wanted to be interactive with somebody with COVID.
Yeah.
So then when I did go to the hospital, they ended up doing the spinal tap and then trying to do alternative therapies rather than brain surgery. And because the numbers were so high, each time the surgery was unsuccessful, I would have to lay in bed for 3 months. And then until the next surgery would come, there would be times I'd have to get a chair and sit in the shower. And I remember the cold water. I would use super cold water for the headaches. And I would just pray. Actually, I would just say, Mother Mary, please have mercy. And I think that that's pretty much the lesson that I've taken from me throughout all of this. Trying to find peace in the chaos for me was like the simple things, like my daughter, she was younger at the time. I think she was maybe 7 or 6. I know she was doing kindergarten on Zoom. And I would just listen for her or hear her speaking and saying, trying to read or just her laugh and stuff. And that brought me a lot of peace.
We can do hard things if we really work through our fear. And it sounds like you just really focused on faith. And I love when you said find peace in the midst of chaos. And so just to paint the scene for everybody. So Mel Robbins is talking on stage to, like I said, about 15,000 of us, and really just killing it as she always does, and talking about fear and talking about things that are hard sometimes, and that we have to make decisions every day, even just to get out of bed. And suddenly she's in front of you. And what is going through your mind when Mel Robbins is literally standing in front of you in your row and asking to talk to you in front of 15,000 people? Were you dying a little bit inside? Because something tells me that
I was
not.
I was mortified. If I could have fit under the chair, I would have went under the chair. Like I thought about it for a split second. Being seen was very difficult for me. It was very difficult for me. And I just was super insecure. And so in my brain, I was like, okay, everybody's watching you. Just get the envelope done and then you'll sit down. I was just thinking, I was like, God, this has got to be like something that God wants me to do, because I would never do anything like this.
Our
Thanks.
brain starts to create all these reasons why we can't do something, right? Because the
Absolutely.
fear starts getting bigger, right? So I know everyone can relate to this.
Do you want to move forward or do you want to stay where you're at?
Yes. So
Which
I have to
was
say, like,
comforting.
so many important lessons, if you're open to seeing and hearing them, right? That she, first of all, gave you a choice, because we do always have a choice. We have a choice to move forward or stay stuck. And I know some people, it's hard maybe to hear that, but we always have a choice.
And then instead of it becoming about me, the focus is more on what I was doing. It was just demonstrating that when you are able to move past your fears, you will be rewarded. I really didn't do anything except for show up as myself. A lot of the times we're preparing to be somebody else or to play the part of what we want others to think. And then just showing up as our true authentic self is exactly
Yes.
what people need. And though we think in our brains that people are judging us, we're only judging ourselves, and we're creating all this fear upon ourselves because of the standards and limitations that we place on ourselves.
We can create so many stories in our head, and I've done it too. And every time I've found myself wrapped up in some story in my head, believing that things were true that weren't, it took me so far away from what I needed to be focused on or who I just need to be. And you realize that we're just getting in our own way. The story is meant to be shared because there are truths in the story and lessons that other people need to hear too.
It was just all like a chance and a twist of fate that just happened to help a lot of people. So I'm very grateful for that.
And that's a beautiful thing too, because you're going to see how much your life will grow from here. And I'm sure you're already feeling it now that you can't be the same person you were before that day in February.
I actually went ahead and had conversations that I should be have that are difficult. And then I am moving. I have boxes everywhere on the
Oh,
side.
wow.
Yeah, so trying to just move forward. I was scared to move, but I'm going to move, and it's a better move for my family and so forth.
The energy of the universe, God, right? The divine will find a way to just pull you in at some point if that's your destiny.
I would just say that like at the most difficult time where you can't find a reason to keep going, just believe. It's better to believe and then see it. It's more powerful to do so. I think there was a story about some seeds that a planter would water every day, and he had to water the plant every single day, the seeds, before they would come up through the soil. And if he missed one day, it would die. And he would just keep watering it and watering it. And they didn't emerge from the soil for 10 years. So you never know what God has in store for you. So just keep believing that you're on the right path.
I'm very excited to introduce our guest to you, Christina Frei, who is a marketing consultant, an author, and the creator of the Generosity Practice Mindset and the Innate Marketing Genius Tools and Methodology. And she helps brilliant mission-based entrepreneurs look smart and get hired. And we are really excited to get into this conversation with you right now. Christina, welcome to Monday Morning Mojo.
Thanks so much, Anna. It's great to be here. One of the things that I have done forever is I've been on a pretty strong spiritual path. I started that in Berkeley, California around 1998. It's been a while. And I was doing a lot of like meditating and focusing on staying in my sixth chakra, because we have these energy centers up and down our spine, the main ones. And so the sixth chakra is where you see energy. It's where you go when you're drifting off to sleep and things are starting to, you just have those images come into your mind. So it was unbelievable. Just being able to stay there and use the information that you get when you're actually there. That was gobsmacking. There's something, I mean, I'm sure you can feel this intuitively, Anna, like when you give for the sake of giving, when you simply close your eyes and imagine how much you could benefit others, it's just such a powerful thing.
For me, it's always about the other person, and it's always about, this energy that I can give, but also receive. And, when you move yourself out of the equation and you focus on what you can do to help the other person, whether it's in a leadership moment, a sales moment, a conversation, right? Then you're able to really get clear about what they need at that moment. And I don't know if it's something we talk enough about, how to use our intuition to really our advantage. Don't you find that a lot of professionals are uncomfortable really talking about themselves and selling themselves, and so they minimize a lot of their talent, or they minimize some of what they have to offer because they're too afraid to sound like they're bragging?
Absolutely. And I would say one of the ways that is, I think, very straightforward to get past that is to focus on how much potential there is if you really lean in and help people. It's not about you, and it's really about the help you're going to offer,
Right.
and the people you're serving. Then you're just going to, I think that's why these people in the field study were like, I'm so much more bold and friendly and
Love that.
generous. Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe we all have these amazing gifts to offer. And if we're not willing to put ourselves out there, then we can't help someone or change their world through our service or product or whatever it is.
In 5 minutes, people can take the assessment and find out if they're a nurturer, an adventure guide, a door opener, a study presence, or a celebrator. And what that means, it really just points to what is your deepest why in service to others.
Would you be willing to share a little bit, like maybe a sentence or two about each of those archetypes?
Absolutely.
So what was the first one?
Yeah. So the nurturer is when you want to make it safe for others to thrive. That's your deepest why.
Sure.
Adventure guide. Adventure guide is when you tend to be a little bit impatient that the people you serve are not going for it because you're like, you can totally go for it. Door opener is the third category. And that is when you love to open up new doors of perception. It's like you're a natural educator. And then a steady presence, that's sort of the pillar. The people who are like a deep treasure trove of resources, whether it's expertise, a straight up network, like the people you know, and even ways of thinking of things. Like, and you love to have people come to you rather than chasing. And then the last category is celebrators. Celebrators are the people who love to bring the good life, and they do it with their own special flair. Most of the other categories think that they should be a celebrator, but you just enjoy things more easily often. And your flair could be anything from humor, fun, artistic sense, design sense, all that.
Great. And so you have an assessment that helps people understand which archetype they might be. And could they have more than one?
A great question, Anna. Yes. And it's very common. I would say maybe 60% of people who take the assessment end up, maybe even more, end up having two. I mean, I'm a nurturer with a side of door opener. We determined that you're a steady presence with a side of adventure guide. You just never know. And by the way, once you take the assessment, the emails you get after that will answer the same questions. Who is it that can benefit from figuring out their marketing archetype? It's people who want to not just get clients, but to truly connect when they market.
Yes, that
It's
authentic
not,
selling, right? It's not about just selling for selling's sake. It's knowing that there's a reason why you're offering what you're offering, because you're probably offering a piece of yourself in the process.
yeah, I mean, if you're the brand, and let's face it, a lot of times you're the brand.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's a horrible way to put it, but you're selling your relationship with them.
Right. Well, and I think that it's the beginning of creating trust, right? And I think that we all want to feel that connection because it does build trust and it just builds a sense of, oh, this person gets me, right? Because that's a big part of connections. What could you leave with them today that would get someone to take action and actually reach out to you?
So I'll say two things, maybe three. One is to start with the assessment. Just take the
Yep.
assessment. That will give you answers and give you a feel for this work. Two is there's an introductory workbook depending on what your archetype is. So it's a pretty low cost workbook that you can buy. And then in there are prompts to start creating content based on your strengths. And also just a review, like a pretty thorough review about what you bring to the table. And then step three, I'll just mention it, is having a power hour with me.
Okay.
Basically just dipping your toe in the water. Like, let's start giving this flavor to your entire marketing approach, right?
So then you would help them actually integrate that into their marketing plan?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes. And then that, I have a much more in-depth way of working with people, but that's a good place to start.
What could I do, even if it's just a slight shift in how I am marketing myself or even presenting? What might you offer up as advice?
Okay, I'll start with your steady presence side of things. So I would have you look, and this might take a bit, I would have you look very carefully at 5 representative clients that you work with and ask yourself, what is it that if I studied it or understood it better, what is it I need to deep dive on to serve them better? Now, I'm hoping, since you're a steady presence, you love that question. It's like, oh, I could study something. The key is that it needs to come from your peeps because, it's fun to study, but it has to be on their behalf, right? Then once you study it, then you turn around and you just share it. And that can be through any of your channels. You could do a specific podcast episode on it. It's basically you standing really tall as this formidable pillar of understanding, deep understanding about things that matter to those people. It's like, I got your back. That's what you're saying behind it all. It's like, I got your back. Don't worry about it. Like, I've been paying attention. I know that people wrestle with this. I've studied it. And here's what you need to know. I mean, can you feel the power of that when someone stands tall in that?
Yes, definitely. And I will say that, hearing you share details of my archetype with me, it's very validating because I believe we all know in our soul who we are, yet we push some things down sometimes, or we have a blind eye to it for different reasons. And so with all of these assessments, when you really are genuinely taking this assessment, you get back the results that are so you, it's validating and it really gives you permission to show up more as yourself. Because that I think is a big message I always try to get across to people is don't waste your time trying to be someone that you're not. And if you stand in your true power and you stand in your authenticity, there's a lot of really good stuff there that people need and you'll attract who you're meant to help and who you're meant to serve. And so I love that you are really you're a guide to people to understand that about themselves. There's always a way to take your natural gifts and develop them or learn new things and skills, right? I do believe that we have this untapped potential and that we have these amazing gifts that our first job is to figure out what they are. And then the second job is to figure out how to, connect with people who need them. Because I think a lot of times people will waste unnecessary amounts of energy on ignoring what is already right in their own toolbox.
So true. And one thing I love when I give talks out in the world or speak with podcasters like yourself is trumpeting the great fact that we all have this innate capacity to just love helping people. Like it's fuel for us. It helps others and therefore everybody wins. It's like this third space where it all gets better.
There are a lot of messages flying at us every day. And if you are looking to take your business to another level, it starts with knowing who you are and how you can offer that and what is your archetype, because then that's how you really get into a lane that you can drive in, because you could easily fall into the Me Too category, right? Like everyone's coming out there with their message and like, oh yeah, me too. I do that. Yes, that's me. Oh yeah, I like that person over there. But at the end of the day, how do you stand out and how do you really clearly convey that brand that is so you and do it in a way that feels not just good, but feels like you're in your strength zone, I would imagine.
Exactly. And again, we can feel that. If you're in your zone,
Right.
we just know it.
Yeah. And you're going to attract more business just because of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will say that for someone that's like, well, this is great self-awareness, where does the marketing come in? And I
Yeah.
will say that when I work more deeply with clients, not only does this archetype help you create your messaging, like your deep message and then everything else besides, but it also helps determine what is your one core strategy that if you did it for 45 to 60 minutes a day would move your entire business forward.
Love that.
So yeah, that's also
So
part of the process. And then I help them launch it, whether it's a
that's good.
podcast or talk or webinar series or whatever it is.
All right. Take care. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you soon.